for that.
We're going to get going, everybody. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The roll call, please. Amy.
Okay, Mr. Beach? Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mr. Brodsky?
Here.
Ms. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Coyne?
Here.
Mr. D'Elia?
Here.
Mr. Dodge?
Here.
Mr. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Karam?
Here.
Mr. Miola?
Present.
Mr. Santa Croce? And Mr. Saunders? Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start with the presentation of the 2024 audit.
So in front of you, the green document is the annual audit for the year ended December 31st, 2024. We have here today the firm of D'Arcangelo and Company, Nicole Chubbuck, who's a partner with D'Arcangelo out of Rome. This is the first year of them doing the audit, and she's going to give a brief presentation for all of you. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Chubbuck, like Jim said, with D'Arcangelo and Company, here to present your annual audit results. New York State does require you to have an audit annually, so that's why we do this every year. It is our first year doing the audit, and I did just meet with the audit committee right before this meeting, and we went through the green financial statements in front of you in detail. So for this meeting, I'm just going to kind of do a overview, kind of a brief highlights, and stick to the presentation that I passed out. I'm pleased to report we did issue an unmodified or clean audit opinion on the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024. A clean opinion is the best opinion that we can issue. Basically, it means that we feel the financial statements are free from any material misstatements and also in accordance with GAAP. So that's great news. That's what you're looking for. We had no reportable material weaknesses or significant deficiencies with internal controls. So another great result there. Also, in accordance with government auditing standards, we found no instances of non-compliance that were required to be reported. So a very clean audit, good results all around. This year, you did need what we call a single audit because of your FEMA money. The FEMA grant expenditures exceeded the threshold of $750,000. They were about $2.6 million. And so we did perform a single audit as well. And we were able to issue an unmodified clean opinion on your federal programs and noted no deficiencies in internal control over compliance. So again, that's a clean unmodified opinion for your single audit. And then lastly, that last bullet point, the ABO requires us to know if we've come across any non-compliance with your investment policies or with state authorities' law. And we did not have any issues of non-compliance to report in that arena either. So this is a great conclusion of the audit, good results, what you're looking to get. We did have a new auditing standard that we had to implement this year. It was related to compensated absences. So if you remember, your compensated absences is the liability that's been on your books, and it used to represent the amount of money you'd have to pay out to retirees that you would contractually owe them for unused sick time. The new standard now made us add to that liability, so now we have to include an estimate of the time that management believes is more likely than not to be used, and so we have to add that likely to be used piece to the piece that's likely to be settled at termination. And so that did increase your liability, and we did make those changes, and your financials are in accordance with the new standard. Results in about a $580,000 restatement of the prior year, because they make us implement the standard as of the prior year. I'm pleased to report we had no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, and no disagreements with management, not aware of any other outside consultations with other accounting firms, and we had no misstatements noted during the audit. So we want to thank Jim and the whole team in the accounting and finance office. We ask for a lot when we're here. I know it's a lot of work for them, and we appreciate their cooperation, especially during the first year of a new firm, just getting to know each other and the way we do business and how we ask for things. So it's a lot of work, but I think it went very smoothly. On page 4, just kind of a quick summary of your statement of financial position. Total net position about $69.5 million at the end of the year. And total assets about $157 million. And total liabilities about $90 million. You can see the majority of your balance sheet of your assets is there in your utility plant. So that's your utility plant net of any depreciation is the $103.9 million. Of your total liabilities of $90 million, the majority there is in your bonds and notes payable. There was no new debt issued during 2024. So you can see it did go down about $4 million, and that's just the result of your current year principal payments made. And then in your net position section, obviously the largest category is your net investment in capital assets of the $57.8 million. That's made up of your plant, less depreciation, and then net of any outstanding debt related to that. So $57.8 million, restricted $5.4 million. That's going to be your repair and improvement reserve, as well as your reserve for debt service. And then in unrestricted, $6.1 million. You do have some board designated funds of about $4.6 million. That's included in your unrestricted line. On the next page, just kind of a quick snapshot of your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. You can see your operating revenues did increase slightly, about $1.3 million, $28 million this year versus $26.9 last year. That's primarily your metered water sales driven by your rate increases that increase. And then you can see the operating expenses very consistent with the prior year, only about a $60,000 delta from year to year. So not too much to report there. But I did want to draw your attention under the non-operating revenues. You'll see other $4.8 million. That's your grants in there. So the FEMA that you received during the year and spent to repair the damage from the 2019 flood, that is in that line. And then lastly, your schedule of expenditures of federal awards is on the last page. Very brief because there's only one grant. It's the FEMA grant, and it's the $2.6 million. Overall, though, I think it was a really good audit result. And I'm happy to answer any questions, if there's any.
First time out, right?
Yeah.
First
time.
Right.
They did a good job.
No, first time out. I'm being nice.
I've already sat through audit committee, and they had lots of questions.
You did a great job.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
I
did.
do want to say, the audit committee currently is myself, Vince, and Deborah Burke. We met beforehand and went through in more detail. I would like to recommend for people that do want to get a little deeper into the weeds, which is, I know, sometimes difficult to understand. I know I have difficulty in understanding, but there are two sections, they're probably the longest sections, that put everything into perspective. One is the notes section. The notes section, basically, if you look at all the charts, you'll see little numbers that relate to notes. You go to the notes on number 3, this is what number 3 is, or number 12, this is what number 12 is. It's the explanation of all the summary data and dollars that are listed. It's a really good section to understand. There's probably about 6 or 7 areas that are the most critical of understanding details related to the finances. The other section, which is very unusual, and anybody that's been involved in any government stuff around here would see audits, but the audits that they see are usually just the financial things. Our staff puts in what's called a management discussion and analysis. That's this section right here. It's called a management discussion and analysis, and it puts the entire organization in perspective. You basically can understand the last decade or so, where we are today, where we have been, and where we're going, is that section. it's a layman's understanding of what this Mohawk Valley Water Authority is all about, what they do, what they are spending money on, what are they thinking on for planning, where they've been for the last decade, and lots of charts and graphs. It's a really good explanation of what the organization is all about. We do it here. They've been doing it, forever. And it's as somebody who has been involved in government, it is the best explanation of why and how and where we're going of any government organization that I've ever been involved with. So I highly recommend you take a look at there. But this is a very valuable report in that regard, because it not only gives you the numbers, it gives you the opinions of our outside auditor and the explanations from our internal staff, but it puts the whole thing in perspective. And for a board of directors that has to make decisions about millions of dollars every year, it's a great tool to become familiar with. So I was very pleased with the audit. They did an excellent job and answered all of our questions and made some good recommendations. And hey, that's what you want.
Any other questions or concerns? Thank you, Nicole. I think this is the last time I see you this year. We have the draft April 21, 2025 minutes in our packet. Is there a motion to approve? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. A resolution and MOU, adding a new title. Who's that, Pat?
Yes, so, in the recent months, Jim and I kind of looked at the duties and who performs what in the accounting department. We shuffled a little bit of them around on the civil service side. When you have a vacant position and you're gonna be changing the duties a little bit, you fill out a 222 form and that goes to civil service. We did that. They classified the duties of our position as a senior accountant. That title was not currently in any collective bargaining unit. And the Management Employees Association felt that it was work that belonged to their unit. We concurred. So they signed the MOU placing that position in their unit, and we're asking today that you guys do the same.
That's Frank.
You want to list the duties, the extra duties for the extra pay?
We don't have extra duties.
You
So
said
we
there's
used to
more
have
duties.
we used to have 2 accountant positions. Our accountant left. It's sat vacant for a while. We did some interviewing in that title. The candidates that we interviewed, the level of work we really wanted them to do,
Was it posting? What is it? What level of accounting is it?
senior accountant.
Senior accountant, so what's the guy gonna do, or lady?
The gentleman, what he's gonna do a lot of.
I know you need help, I know that.
The position,
He's
it's
gonna do
already
a lot of
filled.
financial statement preparation, he's gonna do a lot of journal entries. The accountant didn't have that ability, or background to be able to do that, so
Okay.
they're gonna do a lot of the preparation that,
So you don't need a CPA, you don't need any,
no, you don't need to have a CPA, no.
has he got at least a college degree in accounting?
Yeah, have to, in order to do the accounting work.
Alright, so you're putting a standard for this job then, you're gonna hit some type of standards for this job.
Oneida County approved and classified the position with a job specification that has, I believe the
And
quals are,
qualifications.
yes, a master's degree in accounting or a bachelor's degree in experience. There's no other quals. The accountant position allowed for just an associate's degree,
Okay.
and we found that they could not perform the level of work that Jim was looking for.
Okay.
So when we put the duties down and the qualifications that we felt we needed to do this position, they came up with this new title, which again, in turn was not in one of our units, so we had to just place it in a unit. We hired someone, the person actually started today. This is just placing the title in the MEA unit. If we didn't place it in the MEA unit, it would default to Teamsters.
Yeah, so I have a current, staff member, Geraldine, who does most of this, puts together most of these financial. I'm trying to take some of the burden off of her and shift it over to this position where they're gonna work together in creating the financial statements, doing the analysis of accounts and things like that, so.
So not an additional position, just
Yeah.
a change in title.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions? Someone care to move the resolution? Thank you,
Second.
and thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. So with that resolution, you're authorized to sign the memorandum, Pat?
Yes.
That takes care of that. Next is award of contract regarding lead service line replacements.
Yeah. Denise, we have that?
The proposed resolution is for the award of a contract to Joseph J. Lane Construction and to Carver Construction to complete lead service line replacements. The United States EPA's lead and copper rule improvements require water systems, including the Mohawk Valley Water Authority, to replace all lead and galvanized steel services by year 2037. The Mohawk Valley Water Authority applied for and received 2025 bipartisan infrastructure law lead service line replacement funding through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation's Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for up to $8.9 million in grants and $3.8 million in interest-free financing. The Mohawk Valley Water Authority desires to award 2 contracts for the placement of approximately 475 private or public side services per contract within the environmental justice and disadvantaged areas of the city of Utica. The advertising for bids, bidding, and evaluation of these contracts has been conducted in accordance with Mohawk Valley Water Authority's procurement policies for capital projects. 2 bids were received from this advertisement process, which Joseph J. Lane of Liverpool, New York, was the low bidder in the amount of $3,921,777, and Carver Construction from Coymans, New York, was the second low bidder in the amount of $3,956,789. These bids were both totaling $7.8 million, or within the project budget. Joseph J. Lane has not previously worked for the Water Authority. However, they are known to us and have the experience and capability to complete the work. And Carver Construction has worked on several projects with the Water Authority and other projects around the area, and have the experience and capability to complete the work.
Dan, if I can just add 2 more points. The first being that the grant money has to be used within the city of Utica, right? As a disadvantaged area. I think maybe you said that. But the other point I wanted to make is that you probably heard Dan mention that we were awarded grant, but also interest-free loan, which we did not do because A, we weren't authorized. B, the Water Finance Authority would have had to also convene because any kind of loan would be indebtedness that they would have to approve. So all we've accepted at this point is the grant money. We didn't obviously get ahead of the board and start deciding we're going to borrow money that we weren't authorized to do. So
Yeah, we will be applying for another $10 million in funding this May 30th.
So how many total lead service line replacements are there going to be? I mean, this is 475 per contract.
Yeah.
And
Right.
what is the total number of lead service lines that have been identified?
Between 6,000 and 7,000 total.
Pardon me?
6,000 and 7,000 total within our system.
we believe, and that's based on some investigation and some intuitive modeling. So, but the law requires us, or the act requires us to continue honing that estimate and refining it as we go along. So the lead service line inventory that we handed in last October is a work in progress, essentially. Those numbers can change. We've eliminated a whole bunch that were in an unknown category. I was surprised. I thought it was closer to 4,500, but the model right now is saying it's probably more likely closer to 6,000.
Per service.
No, 6,000 lead services in the
Total.
system out of roughly 39.
This takes care of 1,000 of them, but
So what's the breakdown per service? How much does it cost us per service to install?
Depends on the
Oh,
circumstances.
yeah.
Could be anywhere between 5,000 and 8,000 to 9,000.
Do you know the average?
Yeah, it depends on where they're bid, if they're bid in cities or smaller townships, but, from our main to the curb box,
Yeah.
about $9,000 because it's roadway work traditionally. From the curb stop into the house, about $5,000 to $6,000. So about $15,000 for per house.
Yeah. If the main's on the other side of the street, they gotta go across the whole street, the restoration cost drives it up, the length of pipe drives it up. If a house is set back 50 feet as opposed to 10 feet, obviously it's more trenching. If they're going under porches,
So
that's
go
gonna
by
add to
linear
it.
feet, or how you doing it? By linear foot? Or are you just telling them by household? How you?
Per service line up to a certain linear footage. So we're doing it almost like a lump sum, all inclusive for a certain amount of length.
No matter how difficult it is, one way or the other?
Yeah, correct.
They bust the curb, they gotta fix the curb, they can do it.
Do all the restoration. Generally, the contractor will go into the home and they'll drill out from the foundation wall out to the street and tie back into the existing corporation stop, leaving the existing service in place until the tie over is completed.
If the federal government, the state government insists that this be done, because that's where it's coming from.
Right.
We're talking about $100 million plus enterprise in our system.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying is, I remember putting one in was $5,000. All right, went from the box to cutting the road. Now, this is cutting the road, this is cutting the road with the permits, everything, right?
Well, this is also from the main to the curb box, not just the curb box in.
All right, when they cut
It's
the
the whole
road,
thing.
they gotta the concrete, what about that? They gotta redo that too?
They'll use a mole tool to actually, drill out there and bore out there. So we're going to try to keep the road restoration work to a minimum. They're going to have to, dig up where the corporation stop is existing and tie it over at that location. So we're hoping to minimize the amount of disturbance on city streets.
You might run into a situation where the corporation has to be replaced.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's more.
Our
This is
field crews to respond to that.
something that's not necessary.
Right.
Agreed.
What is the
Bottom
time
line, that's what it comes down to.
Getting all the lead service lines replaced,
2037.
2037.
We'll still be on the board, Vince.
No, I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna get off before he gets off.
Do you feel they're gonna get these reoccurring revenues every year?
Well, we don't know. We're hopeful the money's gonna continue flowing.
Different. Before the election, it was one thing. We don't know what's gonna happen now.
Oh,
So the other thing worth noting is that Dan mentioned this is lump sum per contractor. They're going to cover 475 services apiece. No one would have had the time to prepare a bid to go out and price out every single location
Right.
and give us 500 prices.
Right.
So they're making their best guess. They're obviously going to come out a little ahead on some that are easier. They're going to lose a little money on the ones that are tougher. So on balance, they're saying this is the best price as a package deal. Otherwise, they would have to price every single one out individually, and then we'd have to total them all up, and
Yeah.
it would have taken them forever even
Right.
just to put the bid in.
Right.
And we have a very tight timetable right now.
Well, this is mandated, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the money, after we use this allotment of money, we don't have any money for the next one, but they're
Right.
still gonna mandate it?
Yeah.
So we're
Who's gonna pay for
applying
that?
for funds for the
That's
next
why I
round.
say between now and 2037, we're gonna have to
That's the
spend a lot of
question
money.
everybody's asking themselves.
Yeah, we're
It's
committed.
a $100 million or $120 million project. We don't really know.
So these grant dollars, Pat, if I may, the grant dollars that came in as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law money,
Right.
and that was spread out over 5 years. So this coming year, the application that the Water Authority is making is the last year of that 5-year period for the BIL money. After that, right, we'll have to look for alternative funding sources.
Right,
And
after
nothing's
this,
gonna be allocated these next
still
4 years.
mandated, and we don't have the money. Can they mandate the homeowner to pay for it?
We don't know
I
yet.
mean,
We're waiting to see.
You're gonna have a lot of mad homeowners.
Well, so one of the things that I would like to discuss with the board, and we're going to talk about it internally at the staff level before we bring something to the board, but I'm thinking of a mechanism where individual homeowners can have it done on their behalf by us, but then we put it on their bill and finance it over a period of years. That way, the people that have a copper service aren't necessarily paying for the people that have a lead service still. And it's only about 10% of the system that we think is lead. So we may be able to facilitate the process, spend the money up front, recoup it on the bill over some, nominal interest rate later, and all those costs are attached to the
We
homeowner.
have to assign that to the property, not to the homeowner,
Right,
because the homeowner may
True.
change 4 times.
exactly. So it would stay on the property.
To stay on the property.
Yeah,
homeowner, you're not talking about properties that are rented.
Well, the landlord-
whoever owns it.
Are those included in this?
Uh,
Properties?
I don't know.
No, say that
Rental
landlord owns a
property.
two-family house, but it has a service like that in there. That's included under this grant?
Yes.
So the landlord does not have to pay that, and he's gonna think, oh, that's nice. Isn't that nice?
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
let me ask you this.
Well, it doesn't have to pay it
You might
right
have to pay
now,
later.
but if we're
Don't
required,
get enough money.
if we're required in the future, without funding from the federal or state government, to replace 6,000 services and only paid for 900, the rest of it might require us to say, okay, you're going to have to pay for it. The homeowner is going to have to pay for it, or at least part of it, that part from the box to the meter. That's a discussion for the future. Right now, we don't even know what's going to be required. Things change with the election. We just don't know.
And the
what's
final rules aren't really.
Yeah,
Is there a time limit that you gotta spend that money by? Or no?
Yeah, there is. For the agreement, so.
That's why you got two people going at it?
Well, we tried to right size it so we could attract local contractors instead of, them having a bond for $9 million bond. We try to make it more palatable, separate it. So
So it's palatable to their finances.
Right.
Good choice.
this is crazy.
Any other questions or comments? Someone care to move the resolution as presented? Bruce, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Reaffirmation of HR policies in the miscellaneous section of our packet. There are 4, no changes.
No change. These are mainly financial policies. Yeah, well, code of ethics is kind of like all-encompassing. But the other ones are financial policies. So there's no changes. We're just reaffirming them for the next year.
I know I sound like a broken record, but under the Public Authorities Reform Act, there's a certain bunch of policies that we are required to look at every year and reaffirm. And we've been doing that. When there's changes, obviously we tell you about the changes and what they are, and you can decide what you want to do with those. These are unchanged, correct, Jim?
Correct.
And so they're the same thing that you approved last time. It's only in front of you because we're required to do that every year.
Gotta get more money back? Gotta make some more money on them? Jamie?
What's that?
You gotta make some more money so you can give the government the extra?
Surplus.
Yeah, that's
Continuing to grow, by the way.
Excellent.
The arbitrage, yeah, the rebate, yeah. And I suspect it would.
Well, you're a good
Yeah,
investor.
it doubled. We're at like 118,000 now. Yeah.
I hate giving it back. You know that.
Well, we won't have to give it back till 2028, but that liability continues to grow because the investments are going so well.
If interest rates go down and the average earnings over this period go down, and we might not have to pay anything. So it's a moving target right
I
now.
don't mind paying it if it was going back to the borrower or something.
Yeah, right.
If
Right.
it's going to somebody who has no hand into the federal government gets the money, it's free money. Makes no sense. Stolen money. Yeah, that's what it is. It's stolen money.
That's it.
Federal government always gets free.
Oh, they get it.
So if we could have a motion reaffirming all 4 of these as presented.
Sir?
There's 1, 2, Richard's second. Any further discussion on those? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Financial, March.
Yes, so in your binder is the March financial statement, which we're still a month behind. So I promise you, next board meeting, we're going to double up. I didn't want to double up this meeting because we had the audit and I didn't want to give you too many financial documents all in one. But so this is the month of March, and we had a very good March. In fact, our cash collection for water sales this month was the highest we've ever had, I believe. 1.8 million. 2.8 million. We usually hit around 2 million. So we were very good for that month. Overall revenue compared to budget, 226,000 favorable, 496,000 compared to the prior year. So we're doing well there. Cash, like I had mentioned, very good. We're up $800,000 for the year, but we're going to need that going forward. We got some payouts. So as good as we try to collect it and set it aside because we got some things that we have to pay later in the year. Consumption, year to date, 2.8% above the previous year. We started at 7%, so we're ticking downward, unfortunately, but we started the year 7% above the prior year, went to 5% in February. Now we're at 2.8% or 3%. Hopefully, yeah, consumption. Hopefully we can maintain that, but that's good. This time last year, I think we were down around 5%, so we're doing very well. So it was a good month of March, and hopefully we can continue that going into next month and the month after.
Thanks for the good news.
Any questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Pat?
Okay, very quickly, I only have a couple quick things. My monthly reservoir update is looking good. We're about a foot and a half, about maybe not quite 2 feet below the top of the dam, which is pretty good for late May. So we're in pretty good shape. Nothing to worry about there. One thing that came out this morning was that in the tax bill, budget bill, whatever you want to call it, that's passed some hurdles in the House, hopefully on its way to the Senate at some point. One of the questions that was being looked at very carefully and tracked by the water industry was whether or not the tax exempt bonds that we issue would remain tax exempt. And there's nothing in this legislation that's proposed that would alter that. So what that means for us is that when we want to borrow money and we sell bonds, revenue bonds, people that buy them don't have to pay taxes on the interest that they're earning by us borrowing that money from them. If they were taxable bonds, then, and they're going to lose part of that as an income tax, they're going to demand a higher interest rate because they don't want to lose that much money. So it would drive our borrowing costs up higher. So tax exempt bonds keep our borrowing rate lower than, say, private sector financing, which is a good thing. And there was some talk that they shouldn't be tax exempt bonds anymore. Fortunately, none of that made it into the legislation. So at this point, it looks like we're going to be in pretty good shape in the future when we issue debt, unless something changes dramatically. The other thing I wanted to tell you real quickly was I mentioned last month that we're still discussing this transmission line project potentially down into the valley to connect potentially Ilion, Herkimer, Schuyler, maybe Frankfurt. We were waiting on Herkimer to make their mind up, and as you know, I sent a letter to them several weeks ago giving them a deadline. The deadline had been May 7th because they were supposed to have a board meeting May 5th. However, what happened in the interim was that I got a call from Albany from the director of the Bureau of Public Water Supply down in Albany. She wanted to have a chance to have a conversation with the village of Herkimer, but wasn't probably going to be able to do that before our deadline. So she called me and asked me if I wouldn't mind like relaxing that deadline a little bit so that Albany could come down, speak to Herkimer, have, I guess, some sort of a frank discussion about what their future is going to be. To my knowledge, that meeting, I think, is going to happen this week. So we'll wait and see. But I told her that if they needed till the end of the month, they could have to the end of the month. I didn't want to short circuit the state health department's attempt to, try to have a discussion with Herkimer. So I guess, the update is there's nothing new at this point, other than we're still waiting. We might get an answer from them as early as the end of the week or early sometime next week, whether they're in or they're out. And based on that, then we can continue discussing design, what might have to happen on our end to accommodate that use. But there's a lot of big question marks that all hinge on what their decision is going to be. So as soon as we know anything, I'll let you all know. Other than that, I guess nothing to report unless anybody has any questions for me.
Just one. What's our bond rating?
AA3, is it?
It's AA3 with Moody's and A++ with
Standard & Poor's?
S&P. Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, the most recent bonding, they just maintained the bond rating at the previous level. So hopefully we'll get an upgrade in the future here.
Any other questions for Pat?
I had one other question. There's supposed to be a water tower going in the Schuyler Business Park. Last I heard, the Department of Health was waiting on that. Was there any update on that, if they reviewed it or anything?
Well, we got a little bit of correspondence from the Herkimer IDA, and they were asking for some ideas, financing-wise, I think, from us right then, looking for a contribution. But we Dan and I have to sit down and discuss it with the IDA and see what their plans are, but I don't know if there's a holdup in the project. If there's anything like that you're referring to, I'm not aware of.
Department of Health has approved the project as of 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's as far as we know.
Anything else, Phil? Anybody else? Any old business? Any new business? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.